There we go. He'll come up.
All good.
He'll come up. Are we ready, Legislator Millen?
I'm on.
Legislator Millen, can you hear us?
I'm good. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're assembled. The December 17th, 2024 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Burgess. Here. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby. Here. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz is present. Ms. DeFlorio. Here. Ms. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer. Here. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Ms. Hugh Smith. Here. Ms. Hugh Smith is present. Chairman Long.
Here.
Chairman Long is present. Mr. Mafucci. Here. Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Milne.
I am here.
Mr. Milne is present. Ms. Smith. Here. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Here. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the November 26, 2024 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on our agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 24-0446, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets for the Petroleum Product Quality Program.
Moved by Legislator Mafucci, seconded by Legislator Vasquez Simmons. Any questions or comments? Legislator Dondorfer.
Question for you through the chair to the administration. What happens if a gas station's quality comes back as unsatisfactory?
Through the chair, can legislator ask the question again, please?
I'd be happy to. Through the chair to the administration, what happens if a gas station's quality comes back as unsatisfactory?
That's a specific process question. I can come back to you with an answer.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carried. Next item, please.
Referral 24-0447, acceptance of a grant from the United States Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration for the DEA Task Force.
Moved by Legislator Mafucci, seconded by Legislator Vasquez Simmons. Any questions or comments? Legislator DeFlorio.
The sheriff's role, the sheriff department's role in or on the DEA task force?
Through the chair, Jennifer Curley from the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office assigns a full-time road patrol deputy to the task force, and he assists with any investigations that are within Monroe County. This grant in particular is for the overtime associated with that deputy for those investigations.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Any other questions or comments? Legislator Hugh Smith.
Through the chair, 100% of the overtime costs related to DEA investigations. Obviously, that deputy could have overtime in other categories not related to this.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 24-0448, acceptance of a grant from the United States Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for the ATF Monroe County Sheriff's Office Firearm Explosive Task Force.
Moved by Legislator Mafucci, seconded by Legislator Vasquez Simmons. Any questions or comments? Legislator Hugh Smith.
Through the chair, yes, it covers overtime for our ATF deputy and for any response for our HDS team on overtime.
Is this kind of the same situation? Is there one deputy who's permanently assigned to this task force?
Through the chair, yes, there is one full-time deputy assigned to the task force. We have just recently added another deputy. He's being funded by DCGS to the same task force. And then I think there's 5 HDS members that respond to calls for the ATF, and they are reimbursed by this grant on overtime, but they're not assigned full-time.
Okay, thank you. And so it would be fair to say that all of the overtime associated with this role is covered by this grant. Is that right?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you, great. I yield the floor.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 24-0449, authorize a contract with Ron Smith and Associates for fingerprinting accreditation.
Moved by Legislator Mafucci, second by Legislator Vasquez Simmons. Are there any questions or comments? Legislator Smith.
This is a relative, through the chair, Paul Simonelli for the Sheriff's Office. This is a relatively new requirement for any facet of law enforcement, but it's comparable to the standards that we see for accreditation. For instance, for our public safety laboratory, each one of the specific functions that the laboratory performs has to go through an ISO accreditation process. And now that, with a change in the law 4 years ago, it made it a requirement for any law enforcement agency that conducts comparisons of latent prints where there's going to be a report generated for use in court or any legal process, then that agency has to do it through this accreditation process. And it's a fairly involved process to get to that point.
Thank you. And through the chair, why are we contracting with a company based in Mississippi? Were there any other companies closer to Rochester?
Through the chair, in order to get through the accreditation process, there are numerous gates that we have to pass through to get to the point where we reach final accreditation. We could not find another company that was able to provide the services to get us through those gates without piecemealing it, going out for multiple contracts. There were some independent contractors or small one-person LLCs that might have done pieces of this, but there wasn't anybody that could provide more than 1 or 2 of the small pieces. So in order to keep everything coordinated and keep the process smooth, this was the only company in the country that does this. They are currently, they have had contracts with the New York State Police Lab since 2015, and there are currently 2 counties using their services in the state right now.
Great. Thank you for that information. I yield the floor.
Any other questions or comments? Legislator Hugh Smith.
Through you to the administration, what's the consequence if we do not receive accreditation by September 2026?
Through the chair, if we do not receive accreditation, we cannot use any of the evidence that's gathered and analyzed for any prosecution. But in addition to that, not only for investigative purposes and prosecution, the latent fingerprint services that the Sheriff's Office provides right now also augment when the medical examiner needs assistance with identifications. Also, when there are enhancements for sentencing, will require an accredited agency to testify that the person who's being prosecuted today is the same person who was convicted earlier when it comes to enhancement. So the district attorney's office requires our services also. If we don't do this, everything would have to be sent to the New York State Police Lab, and that would put us in there with most of the, any agency that didn't certify puts us in line with them. And so it would really lose it as a tool for investigative purposes if we didn't do this.
Thank you. One other question through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. If accreditation is needed by September 2026, why are we authorizing this contract through 2028?
Through the chair, So their experience has been that it takes between 2 and 3 years to get this accreditation completed. So we're obviously going to move as quickly as we can, but we have, once again, getting through each one of the gates required. There's things we can't schedule. For instance, when the National Accreditation Board comes in, we can ask them to come. It's going to be up to them to decide when we're on their schedule and when they show up to actually do their final inspection that they do and certification. So the typical time for doing this has been 3 years. The other thing is accreditation doesn't end the day that you receive your accreditation. You begin a 4-year cycle for reaccreditation. So all the processes and everything that put in place have to become normalized within the agency so that the day after we receive accreditation, we have to start looking for the requirements next time we're up for reaccreditation. So this will provide the support to help build this. This is a completely new process for law enforcement. Once again, it's common for a public safety lab, but this is really brand new territory. And candidly, some of the 15 SABIS or the fingerprint agencies that do fingerprints in the state, some of them have just decided that it's too big a lift for them, and they've decided to back out completely of the process. So it is a big lift, and it's going to take work to get through it.
Thank you for all of that. Something else. So through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, are you anticipating needing this service ongoing, or would you anticipate that within the department, after you've been through the process and you get ready for reauthorization, that there would be staff competent for handling that reauthorization process?
Through the chair, that's a fabulous question. The goal will be that we will grow our own accreditation manager out of this process, and that's why you see in the referral, you see 2 different line items, one for the contractor and one for us to start. We're calling it, I think, a program manager, but the reality is that's the person we're hoping to grow into the accreditation manager, because this is not the last. There's other legislation pending out in the state to do this, possibly for computer forensics, for some other areas of law enforcement. So we're going to have the in-house expertise, not only for this, but when the next legislation gets passed and said, you've got to certify this portion of your criminal investigation section. So yes, the goal is to grow our own.
Thank you so much. I yield the floor.
Any other questions or comments? Legislator DeFlorio.
And I'm sorry that if this was in the referral, but the state passed this regulation. Did they also accompany it with any kind of grant funding for municipalities to utilize to pay for?
When this legislation passed, a letter came from then Deputy Executive Director of the Division of Criminal Justice Services, Mike Green, saying, don't worry, send your samples to the state, we'll take care of them for you. So no, there was no funding associated with this legislation, and it really did leave the 15 SABIS sites, fingerprint sites in the state, on their own to make a decision whether they were going to go forward with this or rely on the state lab, which I believe at this point only has 5 or 7 people for the entire state.
Thank you, and thank you for your attention to getting this done. I yield the floor.
President Mafucci.
Through the chair, anything that will assist in ensuring that there's no error. I started out as a prosecutor, and my one goal as a prosecutor was never to put the wrong person in jail, convict the wrong person, and I think that holds throughout law enforcement and the district attorney's office. And while this is a very strenuous requirement, it'll minimize the risk, and it'll truly professionalize throughout the state. We're blessed in this county with the folks that we have. The staff we have in this county doing this account for over 50% of the identifications that occur in New York State. So we're doing it absolutely wonderfully right now, but I don't know how the rest of the state, how well it's being done. So this will standardize it. It's a very high bar to meet, but ultimately, to ensure that justice is served, I think it's something that we're going to have, that needs to be done.
Thank you. So at the risk of being redundant through the chair, this is money well spent.
Through the chair, this is the undersheriff. I just want to give an example. Right now, if we get a print on a scene, we can have Mike Van Roo, our SABIS manager, check the print and get a match within a couple of hours. If we don't do this accreditation, it would literally take 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get that print back. So it is vital for ongoing investigations to get accredited so that we can continue to use fingerprints as an investigative tool and not just put it on the shelf and lose yet another tool.
Thank you. Sounds like a great idea. Appreciate it.
And
I yield.
Legislator Cruz.
Program or this entity work with the other officer departments like the RPD and other law enforcement departments around the county, if they needed help with homicide or whatever.
Through the chair, so briefly, let me explain. There are 15 SABIS offices. We are one of those SABIS offices. So is Rochester Police Department also is a SABIS office currently. This accreditation is required going forward in order for us, like I said, to use a fingerprint in any legal setting. In addition to that, our SABIS office is responsible, as part of the agreement to be a SABIS office, to take care of 13 counties in the area. So we now analyze prints and provide testimony for up to 13 counties in this area for fingerprint services. RPD, I don't know what their final, if they are going to work with us exclusively in getting their people accredited or they're going to do their own right now, I'm not sure. But we will be here with this accreditation.
Through the chair, I guess to be a little more elaborate, the point is to have our own office, right? Our own individuals who are going to be doing fingerprinting for the analysis of cases. So those are resources that other agencies are going to have availability to, or do they work in conjunction with other entities? I'm using RPD as an example because I'm a city resident. But other agencies that may need help with identifying individuals, or hey, the city has their own area, if they don't or can't, ask for help from the county to get more jobs done.
Through the chair, this has always been this is why we get so many identifications here in this area between Rochester Police Department and the Sheriff's offices. They work, all the agencies collaborate on investigations. We all know that crimes don't happen in individual jurisdictions, so criminals are crossing lines, and so the fingerprints that are collected and recovered are the Rochester Police Department and the Sheriff's Office currently work with other agencies in Monroe County and in those 13 other counties to work through investigations and use our expertise to help them.
I yield the floor. Thank you for the information.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any other matters to come before the committee? There being no other matters, the December 17th, 2024 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m.